Okay, today I'm going to show you guys a little bit about the, I'm going to use a cutting torch today, and I'm going to show you a couple details of how this thing works. First of all, I want to show you the difference between these two tips. This tip here is a regular cutting and welding tip. It's just a simple hole, single hole here. You know, oxygen and acetylene come together and make a flame out here. This one is a cutting tip, cutting torch tip, and it's a little bit different in that there's 6 little holes around the outside and then a big hole in the center. And that guy right there, the way this works is those outside holes preheat the metal, and they get the metal up to what they call a kindling temperature. And at that moment, you press a lever down here, you press this lever down here, and you'll get a blast of pure oxygen out of that center hole. And that's what does the actual cutting of the metal, or essentially oxidizing and blowing it out of the solid piece, and then, you know, it takes it away. Anyhow, we'll go over here for a second before we start cutting. I want to show you the tanks and the gauges. So we have 2 tanks here. The acetylene tank here, this is your fuel gas, right? And over here is oxygen, which enriches the burning and makes it burn very clean and very hot. And these tanks are pressurized at a much higher pressure than you can actually have coming out of the torch. Torch is going to have a pressure of maybe 5 psi at the tip coming out for the acetylene, and maybe 20 psi when you do the oxygen blast. So on these gauges right here, you turn on the valve here at the tank, right? These valves right here allow gas to come out of the tank into the regulator. And the gauges will show you the primary side here is, you know, like at this moment, this tank has about 190 psi in it, and the oxygen tank has about 1700 psi in the tank. Then on the output side, this is going to come out at about 5 psi. When I open the valve, that's when I would adjust it, right, to make sure it's coming out at the right pressure. And these little T handles right here are what adjust that secondary, that outflow pressure. Okay. Now today, as I mentioned, I'm going to do some cutting. I'll put this aside now, and I'm going to cut this piece off from the bigger piece of steel. In order to make the cut go smoothly, what I've done is use a wire wheel attachment on my grinder to smooth this down and take away the heavy scaly rust that was on the surface. I'll show you that real quick. I'll do just a little tiny bit of running the wire wheel so we can see how that looks. Now, of all the tools you use, this one is the most likely to throw things at you, because once in a while these little tiny wires, as part of this wheel, little tiny wires fly out. Along with the little pieces of metal, they're going to fly off from the surface of the big piece. These wires fly out. Sometimes I'll find them occasionally embedded in my jacket or whatever. So you want to be sure that when you use a tool like this, you absolutely have to wear safety glasses of some kind of eye protection. Next, I'm going to use, I have my safety glasses here. I'm going to use my shade, because I'm going to put down the shade because any welding or cutting operation gives off a certain amount of UV light. And now, luckily, this isn't super bright, so I don't have to have a super dark shield. If I was doing welding, arc welding of some kind or other, I have to have at least a 9 or 10 shield and maybe higher. This is about a number 5 shield, which is kind of like extra dark sunglasses. And that's going to help protect me from UV light coming off this torch. So now I'm going to go ahead and light this up. And of course, when you first start up, whoops, that's not what I wanted. When you first start it up, it's going to burn poorly. It's going to burn kind of dirty and sooty because it's just the acetylene coming out, like that. And then I'm going to add some oxygen to that. At this point, I have pretty good little neutral flames right here on the preheating flames. And I'm going to then press this lever here. That's when I'm giving it the oxygen blast. Let's take a look here. Hopefully we can now actually cut this. I want you to watch for when I get it good and hot. When it gets good and hot, it's going to start to sparkle. There's little tiny sparks flying off of it. That's when it's ready to cut. I'm going to start right here at the edge. It's getting kind of red hot right now. And after a second or so, we should see the sparkling right there. Now it's ready to cut. Okay, that's pretty cool. Now, of course, we know that this piece of metal's going to be good and hot right now, so I'm going to pick it up with a pair of pliers, I hope. And maybe the front of it's not that hot. Yeah, okay, that's not too bad. And right here, you can see where the metal's kind of got these little grooves burned in it where it blew out the metal. Now, so this part right here is hot. I can feel the heat coming off of it. I cannot touch that. Right? That's too hot. So I'm going to take it outside and run the garden hose on it to cool it off. But that's using the cutting torch, and we've removed a little bit of metal in between here and the other part, and that's how this piece came off.